Our next behavior example, we're going to look at setting up a basic patrol and then deviating from that patrol based on the character's position. So we'll start off, we have our avatar in the scene. We're going to create a couple of new empty game objects that we will use to drive the character around for navigation points. So we'll say a nav1. And let's go ahead and give these a little color, something so we can see them. There we go. We'll move these over, we'll make a couple of copies of them. And using these nav points is really all about how do you want to drive this character around. Because where you place them and how you place them is where he's going to go. So we'll just number order these. If you remember from the patrol video, it's going to be an incremental change. So as long as we are cycling through these in the way that we want, we can get them to go in the right order. There we go. So we've got our nav points from 1 to 6. We can go ahead and group these together. We'll make one more empty game object. We'll just call this our nav group. And we'll bunch all of our navigation points in there. That way we've got that part of it set up nice at a height that our avatar can see. Let's go ahead and select on our character. We'll go to our edit for our patrol. We'll scroll down to our options. If you remember, we've got our patrol point group. So we can simply just drag that group, drop that onto it. A nice option too is that you could turn this nav group into a prefab and something with maybe just a select number of points inside of there. So you could always just drag your prefab out, drop it into your hierarchy, then adjust it the way you need it. That way you don't have to constantly create new sets of them. Our distance threshold, 2 will work pretty good. We'll do a 2.25. How do we want to actually go around on this patrol? We could say, well, the patrol mode, we're going to just loop. So we'll constantly go through that loop. Continue previous path, so we can say the nearest node from the position when they get back on is where we'll go. And if we had any node actions, we could turn that on, but we're not going to have any on this one. Okay, so that does set up our patrol for the character. Let's go ahead and change our initial state to a patrol. Let's make sure that the patrol is set up the way we want it to be. There we go. We've got our character going across. Alright. So we are working. We can go back in and say, let's bump up our rotation speed. Let's say to about maybe even 200. Let's see how that does. The movement speed, let's bump that up a little bit faster so that we can get the feet matching with the speed of the animation. The next thing we can do is say, what's going to trigger this character? Do we initially want him to start in an idle and then go from an idle out? Do we want him to constantly be patrolling? What we could do is say, let's start with our idle. Let's say if our character is going to start in an initial state of an idle, we'll go into the idle. We could go into our trigger. And inside of the trigger, we could say, okay, we have a timer. Let's say we randomly just choose a time that he idles and goes out of an idle. So let's say every 5 seconds, plus or minus, so we have a range here, 2 seconds, he's going to change to a patrol state. So that way, as he's going through, he'll just pause randomly every once in a while and then continue on his patrol. So we have a nice humanistic sort of feel to it. We're going to bump this back on the defaults and double check on our other one here. Alright, let's go back over to our patrol. Let's set our patrol up. Let's set our patrol speed up. Okay, So that's what's going to get him to this one. Now on our patrol state, what's going to throw him out of the patrol state? Well, we could put a timer on this one as well. Let's say we did this one every 5 seconds. He's going to have a plus or minus of 2, and he's going to switch to an idle state. This gives a nice set of randomness for this. So we have a character, he's idling for a little bit. He decides he's going to go walk around. He's walking around. Oh, he thinks maybe I should idle a little bit more. Oh, he's going to go back to it. He gets a little bit farther. Now you notice what's he doing when he goes back out of his idle? He's going to go back to that target. This gives us a good chance to see if we're doing the nearest node. We'll go back to our patrol. We'll look down here at this one. We're doing our nearest node when he continues. So he's going to continue to go to that same one. So instead of doing that, let's do a continue from previous. Let's see how that one works for us. So he's going to start off in his idle. He's going to pick his target. And he's idling again. He's thinking. He's going. We'll idle somewhere in between. So you can see if this was a character just on a path in a game, if he's a guard patrolling or even just an NPC walking around, you could very easily set up the illusion that the character is just randomly walking around, idling at different spots and stopping. Alright, there we go. And that's going to do it for our patrol and our idle, as a combination just of showing how we can use the trigger timer and make a little more interesting path control.